You are not going to believe where my journey to finding my roots has taken me to today. I'm making King's Hawaiian Rolls. I'll link the recipe down in the description. This recipe calls for a combination of hard white wheat grain and Koroshan grain. It's it's one of the ancient wheats. It also calls for pineapple juice as one of the sweeteners. I've got some eggs, some butter, dry yeast, salt, homemade vanilla, and another one of the sweeteners that this recipe calls for is brown sugar, but instead of brown sugar, I'm going to be using Sucanat. Sucanat is, it stands for sugar in its natural form. It's where the cane juice is extracted, it's left to evaporate, and what you have left is molasses, the minerals, all of the nutrients. It's basically sugar in its purest form. I'm going to get these ingredients measured out. I'm going to take you over to the mill to let you see the milling process, and then we'll meet over at the mixer to watch the ingredients get incorporated. See you in just a minute. I've brought you over here to my grain mill where I've already added the mixture of the hard white and the Koroshan to the hopper. I've got all of the ingredients except the yeast and the flour already added to my mixer. I warmed up the pineapple juice per the instructions, and now I'm going to turn the mixer on low. I always start it out on low speed and then just turn it on and let things start incorporating. I'll take you in closer so you can see that. See that softened butter is sticking to the roller, but that's okay because once I start adding the flour, that's all going to incorporate nicely. I think you can see this pretty well as I add the flour to the mixture. And you can see how nicely that's coming together. Man, that pineapple juice smells amazing. And the butter is starting to incorporate better. This scraper, you can see, keeps the dough off the sides of the bowl. I'm going to stop this mixture for a minute and show you. This is very, very sticky. And with freshly milled flour, you have to resist the urge to add more flour because this just looks like there's no way that would turn into a dough. But we're going to continue mixing this for just a moment. Then I'm going to let it sit for 30 minutes and that flour will absorb the moisture. At that point, I'm going to add my yeast and let it mix for about another 12 minutes to see if we can get to window pane and look at what that gluten structure looks like at that point. Everything has incorporated nicely, and now I'm ready to let the dough sit for about 30 minutes. I'm going to just release this roller and the scraper. I'm going to just leave them both in the mixer because I'm going to use them again. No sense in washing them unnecessarily. Put that lid on and I'll meet you back in 30 minutes. It's been 30 minutes since I mixed up this dough, except for the yeast. And I'm going to just dampen my hands in a bowl of water I've got off to the side here, and we're going to look at it. It's still very sticky, but I can feel that the flour has absorbed a lot of that moisture. And I would rather work with the dough that's a little more wet when working with freshly milled flours than a dough that is too dry. So I'm going to add the yeast and turn the mixer back on and let this knead for about 12 minutes. We're looking for that really good gluten structure that's going to make our rolls rise nice and high and fluffy. It's been 12 minutes that this dough has been mixing, and it still looks pretty wet. I'm going to dampen my hands over in this bowl and pick some of the dough up. It's still very soft and sticky and very pliable. Not a lot of gluten structure has been developed yet. And I'm hoping this works out, because again, this is the new mill that I'm using to mill this flour. I'm thinking that it may just need more time to absorb the liquid, and the more it sits and soaks, the more that it absorbs. But I want to continue kneading so that gluten structure is developed. So I'm going to set this for another 12 minutes, and we'll come back and look at it again at that time. Okay, I didn't keep up with the time, but it's been about 30 minutes with this Hawaiian Rolls dough. And I've dampened my hands, and even though this dough is still pretty wet, pretty high hydration dough, I've got a beautiful window pane. This is, you could probably tell why it's called window pane. It's tearing just a little bit on the side here, but that's okay, because it looks like you can see the light through a window pane. That's actually gorgeous. So I'm ready to scrape this all into a ball and let it rise for about 60 minutes to start with. I may end up doing a little longer than that. I want it to at least double in size. So I'm going to get a different bowl out because I want to get it sprayed really good with some olive oil and get it covered. And we'll be right back to see that process. I've gotten a glass bowl out that should be sufficient to hold this dough, and I'm spraying it really good with some olive oil. I'm also going to spray my hands and get my scraper and get this dough scraped up into a ball and put it in that glass bowl. So I've got my dough here, got my hands sprayed with olive oil. I'm going to put it in this bowl, spray the top of it with olive oil. Then I've got this handy dandy shower cap that I get at Walmart, a pack of, I think 15 for about $1. I'm going to cover that. You can look at it, what it looks like now. Then we'll show you what it looks like in an hour. We're going to let it rise, and if it's at least doubled in size, then we'll be ready to shape the rolls. The dough for this King's Hawaiian bread has been proofing for about 30 minutes. It has risen significantly, but not as much as I want to see it rise. So I'm going to give it about another 30 minutes, and we'll check it again at that point. It's been another 30 minutes of this King's Hawaiian Rolls dough fermenting, and I'm pretty happy with how much that has risen. It's probably at least twice the size that it was when I started. I'm going to take this dough and put it on my scale. So we want 12 rolls of approximately equal size. So I'm going to turn my scale on with this bowl already on it and scrape the dough into that bowl. And we have 895 grams of dough. I'm going to get my calculator and divide that by 12 and see what size each of our rolls needs to be. I'm coming up with about 74 grams per roll, and I'm going to show you a really good technique for weighing these out easily without dumping it onto the counter and chopping it all into pieces. I've got my dough in my bowl. Let's see if you can see this a little better. And I know you can't see the scale, but I've got it on 0. And so what I'm going to do is take what I think is about, what did we say, 74 grams? And that's 84. And what it shows on the scale is a negative 84. So what I'm taking out is subtracting from what's in there, and it's at 0. So when it subtracts, it goes to a negative number. So I'm just taking this dough and smoothing it out, and I'm going to pinch it around to the bottom and get where you can see that. And I'm just going to give it a roll on my countertop. Still can't see that. There we go. And place it in my pan. So I've sprayed this with olive oil, and we're just going to keep going. And I'm going to zero this out again. Pinch off about 74 grams. That's 68, 82. You know, it doesn't have to be exact, but you want them to be uniform so they bake evenly. So again, I've got that dough ball. I'm kind of smoothing it out, pinching it around to the bottom. And you really don't even have to roll these on the counter. These are forming very smoothly. I'm really happy with these. So I'm going to get these 12 rolls in this pan, and I'll bring you back to show you what the next step is. I'm bringing you back to show you that I'm spraying my hands with olive oil every once in a while, because this, even though it's not a real sticky dough, after you handle it for a while without any oil on your hands, it does get a little bit sticky. So I've just added a little bit more olive oil to my hands. I'll probably do that maybe one more time before I get these 12 rolls shaped out, and we'll be good to go. I've shaped these dough balls for the King's Hawaiian Rolls into fairly equal sized pieces. I've got them in this pan. I've sprayed it with olive oil, and I lightly spritz the dough balls with olive oil as well. I'm going to cover it with a tea towel and dampen it. And then when 1 hour is up, if I feel like they've risen enough, we're going to get them in a 350-degree oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. See y'all in just a bit. I'm bringing you back for just a minute. I want to show you covering this pan with the tea towel. I've got this spray bottle. It's a mister that I bought at Sally's Beauty Supply, and it's just really good for misting the towel to get it dampened so it's not too wet and too heavy on this dough. So I just dampened that a little bit, and I'm going to put these in my oven where it's a little bit warmer. It's kind of cool in the house today, and it may take these longer than an hour to rise. So I'm going to stick them in the oven with the light on and the door open to give them a little bit more warmth. I brought you over here to the oven to show you what I meant when I said I'm going to put the dough in the oven with the light on and the door open. The door is open, but just a crack so as to not get too hot in there with that oven light on. So it's been 30 minutes of these dough balls in the oven with the light on and the door cracked and covered with a tea towel. And this picture is kind of deceiving because they haven't really risen as much as I would like for them to. So I'm going to put them back in for about another 20 minutes and see if that makes a bit of a difference. Would you look at how gorgeous these King's Hawaiian Rolls are? I just took them out of the oven. I'm going to brush them with some butter. I hope you can see this here. I've got a little container of butter here that I'm going to, I've already melted it, and I'm going to just brush it on liberally. Going to be a nice good bit. It's going to do a couple of things. It's going to give the rolls a little bit of a shine. It's also going to keep that top crust from getting too hard. Trust me, we eat these whether or not the tops are hard or not. But getting that brushed on there, I'm going to let them cool in the pan for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to transfer them to this wire rack that I've got sitting here to cool just slightly, because you want to eat one of these while they're warm. I've got the rolls cooling on this rack, but I want to show you one, how nice they look. I'm going to break one apart. and show you the inside of what they look like. And you know what? Just for the heck of it, I'm gonna brush a little butter on the inside of this. You can't see what I'm doing here, but I promise you, I'm putting some of that melted butter on there. I'm gonna take a taste. You're not gonna get anything like that in the store. Pure ingredients, whole wheat, real butter, real pineapple juice, real pure sugar in its purest form, in the form of Sucanat. What else did we put in this? Vanilla, a little bit of yeast and salt, and they are just perfection. Thanks for joining me on this journey of finding my roots, where we made King's Hawaiian Rolls with freshly milled flour.